Hello everybody, I'm your Angry Slowbro. Welcome back to another tier list. Today we're doing a tier list on Regulation B, or MB. For those of you that do not know, the second regulation of Pokémon Champions, they did not update any more mons. They've not provided any new Pokémon, they've not changed anything, couldn't tell you the reason why. Ultimately, it is what it is. But one thing that is at least good is that after, experiencing the regulation and the format for around a month, we can now reevaluate this list. I already did this video first, if you want to check the original video out. I think it makes sense to revamp that list as there has been a lot that has changed. We'll just go along through each mon as we go, as I think that's the best way of doing this. Let's just get into it. Venusaur is very good. Same as last time. I don't think it's deserving of S. I think there is other Pokemon that can work just as well in Sun. I think there are better Pokemon than Venusaur. I think, truthfully, the pairing of Charizard Y plus Venusaur is great. But I do think that Venusaur is the worst one out of that duo. That being said, Charizard is S tier. Megazard X is getting more play. Not anywhere near as much as Zard Y, obviously. But Zard Y is the best Sunsetter in the game. Can do good spread damage. And Zardex is an offensive powerhouse paired with a Pokemon with Fake Out or a support mon like Clefable. Blastoise is S tier. Blastoise is an offensive nightmare to deal with. Fake Out is so frequent and Redirection is common. You truly do not want to go against this thing when it's Water Spouting, if it's got Shell Smash up. On top of that, it also has moves like Fake Out, and it can be good as a support mon. Beedrill is a Pokemon, it's B tier, it can work, it's just very frail. There's a lot of Pokemon that can deal with it. In the current meta, it doesn't tend to fare well with snow teams, rain teams, sun teams, or sand teams. So truthfully, there's only a couple of use cases, but because it's so quick and does so much damage, from a single target perspective, it still can work, it's just a lot harder. Pidgeot's mid. Everything that it can do, other Pokemon do better. That's kind of what this tier is for. It's not necessarily bad, but it's not going to get used. Same thing with Arbok to me. Arbok is a little bit mid. There's better Intimidators, there's better Poison types, there's better damage dealers, there's better whatever. Right, it's just, it is what it is. Pikachu, obviously, is not good. Raichu can work. Raichu is a pretty solid support mon. Follow Me is good. Lightning Rod actually is quite nice against Pokemon like Archaludon, who like to Electro Shot spam. But again, it's another one of situations where Raichu is not bad. There are slightly better mons, but objectively Raichu is still good and better than C tier. Fake Out, Follow Me, strong electric moves, redirection, pivoting, helping hand. There's a lot of options with Kanto Raichu. Alolan Raichu is kind of mid. Relies on electric terrain, kind of forces itself to set it up, and for that reason it puts it in C tier. There's nothing else that exceeds enough for me to put it any higher. Clefable is like, sort of like mid A tier. Regular Clefable is still better than Mega Clefable. Obviously Mega Clefable has Magic Bounce, which is great in singles, not as good in doubles. Also just clarify, I'll put this at the beginning, this is a doubles tier list. I'll put it in the title as well, I imagine, but in doubles, Clefable's whole role is support, more or less. Follow Me is great. Normally a bulky set with Citrus Berry is the move. Also has Helping Hand. It can do solid damage as well with moves like Moonblast. It also even has Encore, so slow Encore is not bad. But in general, Clefable is still good, but doesn't go into the S tier. Ninetales is B. It can work as a Sunsetter. It's bulkier than Charizard, but it doesn't excel in any other area. Alolan Ninetales is a great Snow Setter. Ice Fairy is good against Pokemon like Dragonite, who are still very popular, but does unfortunately fall off compared to Pokemon like Frostlass, who I do believe is still the best Snow Setter I've ever seen. But Aurora Veil, Blizzard Spam, Dazzling Gleam Spam, Go Choice Scarf, still really good. Freeze Dry for Pelipper. Arcanine is pretty good. To be honest, both Arcanines I feel like are in B tier. They're very quick, they have Intimidate, obviously. But to me, it's kind of like similar to Raichu in the sense of like they're not bad at all, but there's just better options. Machamp is just mid. I'm just going to throw that out of the way, get that done. Alakazam's a weird one. I think Alakazam at the moment is B. I think Alakazam can work. I haven't played against enough Alakazams to say for certain, like, oh, it's definitely, like, amazing. Obviously, it can be really powerful because it's got very high special attack. However, Psychic Terrain isn't really a common thing, and if it is used, it has to be manually set up, which makes Alakazam a lot harder to use. Makes plays a lot easier to predict. It means that you have to play a lot more risky, because if people predict the protect, then you're just fucked. It can't all rely on Alakazam. And especially with the really popular Pokemon like Kingambit and Incineroar, Alakazam doesn't do much. So, for me, Alakazam is B. It can work, but it's not great. Victreebel is mid. It's a real shame because I love Mega Victreebel, but the fact they give it Aftermath, right, it just doesn't work. As a Trick Room one, it doesn't exceed enough to kill a load of Pokemon and to give it like more of a reason to be picked. It is just mid. Slowbro is also kind of mid, to be fair, in doubles. Slowking is much more superior to the Slowbro line. Galarian Slowbro, obviously, the GOAT, can be used more often because Quick Claw, Quick Draw is quite annoying to play against, also can work in Trick Room. And obviously they're very naturally bulky. Problem with regular Slowbro, it doesn't do enough damage. Problem with Galarian Slowbro is that it's too balanced, right? He doesn't exceed anything. It's like a Luxray. Gengar is obviously S tier. Gengar's great. Shadow Tag is still really good if you know what you're doing. In general, he is very powerful, does a lot of damage, he's incredibly quick. There's not much else to say. Mega Kangaskhan and Kangaskhan, despite being nerfed, still very good. As a Fake Outmon, he can still do a lot of damage with Double Edge. And even Fake Out Last Resort, which is becoming ever more popular. It is quite good. It is definitely an option for Fake Out if you don't want to just use Incineroar. Pinsir is not good. I have not seen a single Pinsir used in any single battle I have played, and it's for good reason. It's because regular Pinsir is crap, and Mega Pinsir, whilst having Aerialate and being able to do some potentially good damage and has okay speed, with Pokemon in the meta, right, like Charizard, like T-Tar, you just do absolutely nothing, right? Obviously, Pinsir has close combat. Despite that, Charizard could have a Chople Berry. Pinsir's not doing anything, right? It's definitely the worst Pokemon with Pikachu so far. I'd say regular Tauros is mid. Fighting type, normal type with Intimidate, not bad. Could theoretically work, but on paper, like, there's just much better options. Blaze breed of Tauros, I think, is a little bit better. I think it can work. It has the Intimidate. Also has Kuchu, which is a good ability. But it does more damage. It has better moves. There's more of a reason to pick Paldean Tauros. However, the Water one is very good. I think it is much better than the Fire breed one because it has access to Aqua Jet, which is only one thing, right? And it may seem simple, but the addition of the Water type plus Aqua Jet is just very, very good. Helps at a lot of situations. And there's something as simple as going like Intimidate with close combat with White Herb. Can be very powerful. Mega Starmie, I think, is very good. It is just very fun to use. I think there's a lot of niche tech with Pokemon like this, because regular Starmie on its own is okay. Not as good in doubles, but Mega Starmie has such good stats and it has moves like Skill Swap. There's a lot of fun things you can do. The only thing with Starmie, it's just not very common. Not a lot of people use it, and I think that's because the Mega people don't like. I'm one of them. I don't like the design, but it can still be very good. It's on like the lower end of A though. Gyarados is A tier. I mean, Gyarados is like high A. It's really, really good. Mega Gyarados is very good into a lot of popular Pokemon. It can work against Bashka Legion, even Sinister if it's not careful. It does so much damage, and with a combination of Pokemon like Clefable, you can get up Dragon Dances and you can just sweep. Ditto, I haven't seen a lot of. Truthfully, in doubles, I don't think he's very good, because there's so many little situations where this is actually helpful, and for that reason he's staying in D. Vaporeon's mid. It's just a bulky water type with Water Absorb. Not many situations where it's good, but it's not objectively bad. Flareon is the same thing. I've come against more Flareons, and I have Vaporeons. Jolteon is B. I think Jolteon is pretty good. I won't say it's amazing, but I think it's good. Very quick, obviously, which is an advantage. Lightning Rod is not a bad ability for him. And then spamming Discharge with ground types, getting out there with Volt Switch, Electro Wave to lower speed, is very good. Aerodactyl is A tier. Sorry. Aerodactyl is S tier. This Pokemon is so annoying to play against. One Pokemon that I didn't predict to be as good as it is, I was completely wrong. Tailwind is broken, and one of the most powerful gimmicks I would say at the moment. Having that double speed is so useful. And on top of that, Mega Aerodactyl does a lot of damage, and Rock Slide is one of the most broken moves in the game. Snorlax is like B tier. I think Snorlax is okay. I think Snorlax can work as a Trick Room mon. There's a lot of these like entrainment sets that people try to make work. It's not very often that they do work, but he does get moves like Fissure. In general, though, he's just very bulky. He can survive a lot of hits and can stay alive for a very long time, which is very good in doubles. And in Trick Room, like I said, he does have potential to do damage. Belly Drum, things of that nature. Dragonite's obviously S. I have to admit, I do think Dragonite's not as strong as I thought it would have been. I think a lot more people are running support Dragonites now, which is interesting. Things like Icy Wind, Tailwind. I think he had Ice Wind. Might be wrong, but Tailwind. And going like with covered moves. It's a bit of a weird set, truthfully. But I still think that offensively Dragonite is very scary, and he's very bulky, very offensive. Multiscale's broken. Then we have Meganium. I originally put this in B tier, but I think it is either high A or low S. I think Meganium is great. There is so many situations where this Pokemon is really nice to have. Megasol is a broken ability. It's very good to use, it's very fun. Not having to worry about terrain Pokemon swapping in, you can always get your moves off. It's so nice. And the Grass Fairy type is very good up until you see a Sneasler. Regular Typhlosion, it's just one of those Pokemon that it can work, but to me it's no better than Hisuian Typhlosion, literally down to the typing. Being immune to Fake Out is such a big W. Typhlosion can still do good damage, but it's just one of those Pokemon that, like, it's on the lower end again. Feraligatr, I think, is probably between, I would have said, B and A, like high B, low A. Just from personal experience, Feraligatr tends to be quite disappointing, which is a shame. Dragonize is a really good ability, and I think maybe over this regulation, it might pop up a little bit because there's less and less people using certain fairy types, but like Mega Floette, who outspeeds naturally, Mega Gardevoir, Sylveon, these kind of fairy Pokemon that people are using a lot, just do so much damage against Feraligatr. And in Sun, there's Venusaur, who pressured with Sleep Powder. In Sand, you can't hit both Pokemon. In Snow, you could get Freeze Dry. Like, there's a lot of potential issues with Feraligatr, and there's so many threats against it. Even though Dragon Dance with Dragon Eyes and good typing is good, don't know if it's enough to put him higher. Ariados is B. Ariados is a Pokemon that can work, definitely, as we saw in the recent tournament. Someone came first in the Grand Regional Challenge, or whatever it was, with Ariados. Whole purpose was a Rage Powder mon, because I forgot this Pokemon had Rage Powder, and it was for Sneasler, because it resists all of Sneasler's moves. Also has a lot of potential damage output with Sniper, Mega Horn, and also has Sticky Webs, which is obviously good. But that doesn't put it any higher than B. It is still an Ariados at the end of the day. Ampharos is B. Ampharos is a Pokemon that can work. I think Ampharos is one of those Pokemon that is either really annoying to play against or just completely awful. Mega Ampharos with Mold Breaker can be useful in some situations against like Lightning Rod users potentially, just to avoid that. As well as Pokemon even like Dragonite with Multiscale. Regardless, he is very slow. He doesn't do a lot of damage. The best thing about it is the fact that he is very bulky, like I said, so he can slow Volt Switch and he can Discharge Bomb. Azumarill is decent. It's just one of those Pokemon that's always okay. He, in my opinion, is like in a similar vein to like Tauros, but due to the slightly worse ability. And I know that's crazy saying that huge power is worse than Intimidate, but on a Pokemon like Azumarill, it doesn't help him as much because he has 50 attack, like, or whatever it is, something really low. So the huge power doesn't benefit him that much. He doesn't have as much other tech. Politoed is great, probably high end of B. I still think Pelipper is much better, and you can not convince me any otherwise. He is mainly used as a Perish Trap supportmon now, but regardless, he still has a lot of good moves. Helping Hand, obviously Perish Trap, using Pokemon like Charizard Gengar. All in all, Politoed is decent. Espeon and Umbreon are kind of mid to me. Umbreon's kind of the same boat as Vaporeon, they're just bulky. Slowking and Galarian Slowking, I think, are both very, very good. I think you could honestly make a case for A, but due to their, like, use case kind of just being like Trick Room setters, offensively they don't really do much. I mean, Chilly Reception's good, but then again, you only use that for swapping. Sorry, it can get rid of, like, Rain or Sun or whoever's coming out, which is pretty good. You know what? I'm going to do them a solid. I think that's actually kind of right. I actually think they do deserve that A tier. Steelix is mid. It is a Pokemon that people actually try and use quite a bit in Trick Room, especially in the lower elos. When I was grinding up to Master Ball the first time, I saw a lot of Steelixes. It just doesn't work. He's really, really underwhelming. Scissor's obviously very good. He always is, always will be. I don't think he's S tier, but he does have a lot of damage. He pressures Pokemon like Aerodactyl, which is good, but he does get destroyed by Sun teams and Rain teams, which are very common. Fortress is kind of mid, just a slightly worse Aridos. Heracross, unfortunately, is kind of mid right now. Mega Heracross obviously has Skill Link, right, which is good, but it does not help him enough. He just doesn't do enough damage. He's very slow. Under Trick Room, he can work, but the problem is that he's just made, like, the ideal set with Heracross is Guts, and there's no Flame Orb yet. So he'll eventually go up, but for now he's definitely C. Skarmory's B tier. I think Skarmory can work. Stalwart is an interesting ability, but I do think, like I said, as this in the last video, when there are more Pokemon with Rage Powder that come out or follow me and stuff like that, I do think he will be better. But for now, I still think he's B. Houndoom's A tier. Houndoom is a really, really good anti-meta offense for a pick. Spamming Heat Wave, Dark Pulse is good against a lot of Pokemon like Basculegion and Gengar. And then even Pokemon, even moves like Solar Beam or Sludge Bomb can be really, really good. Tyranitar is obviously S tier. Sand is very good at the moment still. It was better than I thought it'd be, truthfully. It is better than I thought it'd be, but Tyranitar is great. Pelipper's A tier. Pelipper's like high up A tier. I think he's really, really good. Wide Guard is great. The amount of people that use like multi-hit moves, it is really good at preventing that. Tailwind, you can go natural bulky, you can go speed, you can spam Weather Ball and Hurricanes. He's really good. Gardevoir, I think, is very good as well. Truthfully, I don't think Gardevoir is as powerful as I thought it was going to be. With just Gardevoir being Gardevoir, but it is still very good. It is sort of in like the high to mid end of A tier though. Sableye is great. Sableye is really annoying to play against. Prankster with a Dark type to prevent opposing Prankster. Ghost type to be means Fake Out. Accept screens. Disable. Quash. If you don't know what the DAT does, it just forces the opponent you select to move last. It's great. Mega Sableye doesn't get used, but that's for a good reason because it's shit. All in all, Sableye is really good. Aggron is a Pokemon, to me, who is like Snorlax, can work in Trick Room, but outside of that, he's obviously a bit crap. He's just incredibly bulky, which is great, but you still get destroyed by Pokemon like Blastoise and just Pokemon that just spam super offensive special moves. Pokemon like Charizard, for example. And I have to say, I do think Trick Room does feel like the current weakest outside of like Hazard stack strategy. I do think Trick Room is the second weakest. Then we have Medicham. I mean, to me, Medicham is a little bit worse than Azumarill, to be honest. I guess I haven't seen enough of Medicham for it to work, but it's in a similar vein to Azumarill. It is just much, much worse. Manectric is okay. I think Manectric is kind of just like a better version of Jolteon. Mega Manectric. Regular Manectric is worse than Jolteon. The Intimidate from Mega Manectric is great, obviously. You do a lot more damage. I don't think you're as quick, but you do have some interesting coverage moves like Overheat, things like that. So he can work, but I don't think he's great. Sharpedo is a Pokemon I've seen used a couple times, actually. Can work. Obviously, Speed Boost is very good, but he's more of a singles one as well, in my opinion, Sharpedo. And they're just a much better Pokemon. Torkoal's A tier. Torkoal's like in a similar vein as Pelipper, because he's one of your best Trick Room attackers, right, to support other Pokemon like Golurk and things like that. Possibly the best Trick Room offensive one. Spamming Eruptions without having to Mega is just broken. Camerupt, speaking of another Eruption one, I think is again similar to like Aggron and things of that nature. I think he's a Pokemon that can work in Trick Room, but relies purely on it. Milotic is... well, truthfully, it could be S tier. It's definitely up there. I mean, with the lack of grass types, I think, and the lack of electric types as well, to be fair, I think you could make a case for Milotic to be S. It is a Pokemon that is just so annoying to go against, because competitive allows him to do so much damage. If anyone brings an Intimidate Mon or a Parting Shot spammer, you're in for a rough day. Cast Form is obviously not good, possibly the worst Mon. Altaria is a Pokemon that can work. Pixelate with him is okay. Haven't seen many Altarias. But it is a Pokemon that can work as well. It has obviously Prankster. It has some good moves. It does a lot of damage, 165 base attack, I believe, in Mega. But to me, it does feel like a little bit of a wasted Mega slot. I think there's better Pokemon to do what he can do, so he's in B tier for me. Chimecho, I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen many Chimechos at all. But I still believe with its ability and the way that it's run, Carmine, things like that, you can go with Earthquake spammers with Levitate, and Psychic Steel being a great typing, having natural bulk, you can do okay damage, you can support, you can Thunderwave things. You actually can be quite of an annoyance to play against, especially because there's barely any people that use it. Clearly is just mid to me. It just like, there's a fun strat you can do with Refrigerate Explosion and just do a lot of damage, but Glaze a little bit of in a similar vein to Heracross and Medicham. It just feels a little bit mid. Doesn't feel very good right now. When it comes to the Sinnoh starters, to me, I think Empoleon is like, Empoleon is a Pokemon that can work. Obviously, competitive is good. He is nowhere on the same caliber as Milotic. The Steel type, in my opinion, actually makes Empoleon worse in this situation. Torterra, I think, is mid. It just isn't reliable enough outside of using Shell Smash. And Infernape, I think, is a Pokemon that can work very quick. Upper Hand is very good at the moment. I do think he can work, especially with him being quick, and you can run in mix. There's options and stuff. There's pivoting with U-turn. Roserade is mid, glorified hazard spammer, but I can't say I've seen any more than maybe one Roserade being used. Maybe if that. Bastiodon is mid, again, possibly in the not good category. It's just one of those things where, like, yes, he's bulky, he could theoretically have some sort of use case, maybe a Trick Room one with Body Press, but outside of that, he's crap. Rampardos is a Pokemon that theoretically could work because of his really good damage output. However, does rely on Trick Room and going negative speed. I mean, that's a bit of a shout. So that's a bit of a push. Mainly, you kind of get the offensive output from like Choice Scarf and Tailwind, or just Choice Scarf in general. So it could work, but he's like the very low end of B. Lopunny's decent. I think Lopunny is just a worse Kangaskhan, in my opinion. With Scrappy's good, but very frail. So there's positives and negatives, but I think Lopunny's still like B tier. Spiritomb C is just kind of mid. Just can't say anything else about Spiritomb. Lucario is actually a bit of a weird one. I'd still say that Lucario is like low end of A. Can be really good into sand teams and even like Pokemon like Mega Floette, who's really powerful at the moment. Fighting and Steel is a good type combination, but he does feel a lot weaker than I originally thought. Garchomp is obviously S tier. I think he is one of the best Dragon type Pokemon out right now. He is just good in all areas. He's naturally bulky. Rough Skin is annoying to play against, like Focus, Sash users, Fake Out users, and he can Earthquake Spam, he can set up speed with Scale Shot. There's a lot of options with Garchomp, which is what makes him really big of a threat. Gen 4 Weather Setters, a Hippowdon and a Abomasnow can theoretically work, but there's just better options. Toxicroak is actually a Pokemon that can work. Pleasantly surprised. I had him in like COD tier when I did the first tier list, but he is actually not bad. Fake Out user, he's got priority. His ability, Dry Skin, is actually a really good ability, especially with Pokemon like Gyarados and Blastoise and Milotic existing. It's a very bit of a weird niche Pokemon that does very well into it. Maybe not Gyarados as much. Another Pokemon, we've got my boy Rhyperior. He is worse, in my opinion, than Pokemon like Snorlax or Aggron, something like that, because like he's very physically dependent. He's not got as much special bulk as any one of these guys. 2 quad weaknesses, no weakness policy yet, which is kind of what makes Rhyperior good. I was going to Leafeon, Jesus Christ. Leafeon is mid. Possibly the worst evolution. Glaceon is B, I think it can work. Is a good offensive with Choice Scarf, or even outside of Choice Scarf, Blizzard Spammer. And Snowcloak with Pride Powder is really annoying. Weavile, I think, is good. I won't say Weavile's very good. It is one of the few Pokemon that can outspeed and counter Fake Out, guaranteed, Sneaslers. But you are weak outside of that. You can do really good damage against like certain Pokemon, but it's just it's difficult to use something like Weavile when there are just like there's just like if you look at this tier above it, right, there's a lot of Pokemon this doesn't want to see. So for that reason, I think it's B tier. Gliscor, you see, Gliscor's B. I think Gliscor can work, right? Hypercutter to prevent attack drops is good. He's good typing, he can sell up, he can do good damage, right? You can use Facade and get around burns, Earthquake Spam, but he doesn't have Poison Heal. So he's like the lower end of B, possibly C. Gallade and Mamoswine are both pretty good in their own right. They're both like Pokemon that can work. Mamoswine can go offensive. And again, Snowcloak, that sort of thing, you can go offensive, thick, fat. Gallade is very offensive, Mega Gallade is very powerful, get access to moves like Wide Guard, but there are just better options, so I think B tier is fine. Frostlass is still S tier. Frostlass is one of the best weather setters in the game. So many benefits, he's just a tiny bit frailer than some of the others. Rotom Ghost is not good, its stats are just much worse. Rotom Fan is the exact same. Rotom Heat is actually very good. Rotom Wash, I would say, is very good as well. Thing with Rotom Wash, I don't think I would say Rotom Wash is S tier like I originally had it. There is a lot of sets, it makes it harder to predict. Like, this is a Pokemon that I'm, to be fair, scared of when I see it, because I'm like, is it Scarfed, or is it like some Citrus Berry Will-O-Wisp set? And it is very naturally bulky. You know, I guess I'm still going to put Rotom Wash in S tier. I think Rotom Heat is great. I think it's very good. Choice Scarf set is good in with rain teams and stuff. But because he's weak to water, it does make him a little bit worse, I think, against like opposing rain teams. You know, even though he's good against them, he's also bad. Rotom Fridge is kind of like Glaceon to me. Just a good Blizzard Spammer. Rotom Mow is a bit mid. He's not necessarily awful again. He's one of those Pokemon where it's like, objectively he's not bad, but he's just not great. The Gen 5 starters, we'll start off with Hisui and Samurott. Can work. Cecil's Edge is still annoying to play against, but very frail. And that's kind of just like their only use case. That's about it. Superior is much more of a singles mon. It can set with Contrary, to be fair, and can do a lot of damage. And with good support, it can work, so I'd say Superior is B tier. Regular Samurott is mid. It can set up, but And I'm being generous giving it C. I think it is one of the worst Pokemon in this tier, which is a shame because it's my favorite starter. Emboar is another Pokemon that I think can work. It's an interesting Trick Room one. Mold Breaker again is an okay ability. Still, Emboar is a little bit disappointing. Watchog is still objectively not good. Purloin, and I always forget your evolution name, Lipad. Lipads are pretty good. Prankster, Dark type, immune to other Prankster. Copycat's a fun strat. You get Fake Out. You get really good moves. I think you get moves like Helping Hand. You also get Trick and stuff like that. So Lipad is actually pretty good. Simipour has been surprisingly good, which is weird to say. Simipour they've all got access to moves like Fake Out now, which is great, which puts them, in my opinion, immediately all in C tier. But then Simipour can spam Blizzard, can do really good damage with Scald, and they'll get Helping Hand. They are much better now, which is good. It's a start. It's not the buff that they deserve, like, fully. They need Megas or some evolutions or something, but they are still good. Excadrill is probably high A tier. I don't think he is as good as other sand or the, like, sun, rain, snow offensive ones, but he is still really good. Aldino is mid, possibly D tier. Conkeldurr is a Pokemon that is actually another Pokemon that can work. In my opinion, he's a little bit like these guys. He's not as good as Aggron or anything like that, but he does have potential with his low speed. He does a lot of damage. Whimsicott's still forever going to be S tier. One of the best support mons still. I don't care. Crocodile, I think, is A. I think it's very good. I think he can still work. If you go with the Moxie set and you pick up a couple of kills, you can just take games before they even start. I do think he is really good. Cofagrigus is a weird one. He's like high B. I fucking hate playing against Cofagrigus. I played against so many Cofagriguses in that tournament. And from like weird Iron Defense body press sets in Trick Room to just like Will-O-Wisp and keep Pokemon from doing anything, it really worked. He is really, really good. I won't put him in A tier just because there's better options, but like he is still a good option. Garbodor is objectively bad. Yeah, I can't really put him any higher. Zoroark and things of that nature I think can work, but I think because people are more aware of this Zoroark illusion strategy and because it's easier to hit Pokemon like across the board because there's so many Pokemon with spread damage moves, I think these guys do lack a little bit. Rudicrus I think is good. I think is a solid Trick Room setter. I think you've got different options. I think it can work. When Psychic Terrain comes out, I think this Rudicrus is going to be even better, but it is like lower B to me. Ironically, Vanillux is in the same boat as like someone like Glaceon, but because he gets Snow Warning, it makes him a little bit better. Obviously, I've forgotten your name as well. Oh my god. Emolga is not good. Same with Stunfisk, so I can just get them out of the way. And I can get Furfrou just because I saw it. Sorry, Furfrou. I think Chandelier can work. I think Infiltrate is a crap ability because not many Pokemon run Sober and things like that. But it is still an offensive powerhouse that can work in the correct situation. You can run it in Trick Room, potentially against certain teams, and then I guess Tailwind's also an option. It is okay. I don't think it's any higher than B though. Beartic is mid. Slush Rush, a potential snow offense mon, but it's just not great. I think Golett can work. I think it's really, really offensive and can do a lot of damage. But to me, it's like high B because, again, Trick Room just feels so weak at the moment. Volcarona is between like A and B. It's a really good support mon, as well as offense. Yeah, I'll put him in low A. If I don't like Volcarona, it is still, I'll give it its credit. Hydreigon. Hydreigon is a Pokemon I definitely think can work. I wouldn't put Hydreigon in A tier, but it's like the higher end of B. I think Choice Scarf Hydreigon is a typically a decent set. You can do a lot of damage. You have actually pretty good coverage. You are quite weak to Fairy though, and with him being like a Pokemon that kind of naturally needs either Choice Scarf or some form of speed control, and he doesn't have like a lot of good spread damage moves, I think he could be considered maybe A tier. If there's like a B+, I'd probably put Golurk and Hydreigon in that classification. Then we have the Gen 6 starters. Now, first of all, I'm just going to get this out of the way. Delphox, who I originally had an S, I think is A tier. I think it's high A. I think Delphox is typically solid. However, there's a lot of matchups where Delphox is a lot more inconsistent. Sand being one of them, rain teams being a bit rough. Whereas Pokemon like Whimsicott, Rotom are a lot more consistent into more matchups, so that's why I put them there. Greninja, I think Greninja is very good. I think Greninja can work, and is probably the best snow offense mon, other than Frostlass, Ninetales. Greninja's got a lot going for it. I don't think there's anything else to say. Chesnaught is kind of mid. A little bit like Rhyperior. Odd Weakness Define is quite bad at the moment with Mega Aerodactyl flying about. Lies in Trick Room, has good bulk but doesn't have the best offense when kind of needs it. Diggersby's kind of mid as well, kind of in a similar vein to like Medicham. Talonflame is very viable. I think Talonflame is one of these Tailwind mons that is probably the third best. Yeah, third best with obviously Whimsicott and Aerodactyl existing, but it does exist solely for Tailwind. But it did get buffed to get some good moves like Quick Guard, things like that to prevent Fake Out, which is nice. And Gale Wings is just a good ability against Pokemon like Sneasler, for example. Vion is mid. A potential Quiver Dancer, so there's opportunity to get some good stat buffs, do some damage, but other than that, it's just meh. Florges is indeed, I said this last time, it should not be... there's no point in using it, because Florges is just the same version of Floette, but worse, obviously with the worst ability, because Mega Floette is fucking incredible. Mega Floette's going up towards top of S-ish. Just does so much damage, Fairy's still really good. Only downside, I guess, is that it relies on a Mega, but who cares? Pangoro. Mid. Truthfully, actually, probably not good. Probably one of the worst physical attackers currently you'd want to pick, especially with Fairy going around. Sneasler being as popular as there's actually no reason to pick it. Meowstic is a Pokemon that can work. I'd say both of them can work. One's got Compare, one's got Prankster. This Meowstic is used for Psychic Terrain, so probably your best option for Psychic Terrain, but because Psychic Terrain is still kind of meh, I don't think it goes any higher than that. A Mega Meowstic has Trace, which is also kind of mid. Aegislash is very, very good, like high end of A. A reliable counter against a couple of mons, Pokemon like Scizor, Pokemon, well, he's not in there yet, but Sneasler, and a couple of others. And he also has access to moves like Wide Guard, making him really good against Pokemon like Aerodactyl. Aromatisse, nope. Yeah, I'm just not saying anything about Aromatisse because it's shit. Slurpuff is mid. It has Sticky Webs, has some nice tech with Belly Drum, Psych Up, moves like that, Drain Punch. But it just doesn't go any higher than that. Same thing with Cloyster. Vape also mid. It's a weird niche Pokemon that actually does provide some good matchups into certain Pokemon, like Basculegion with Dry Skin and being a normal type, but that's pretty much it. It's quick. Tyrantrum is like in the similar vein to Rampardos, just a little bit worse. Choice Scarf, Tyrantrum with Rock Slide or Head Smash with Rock Head, you do a lot of damage, even if you don't have the 150 base attack or whatever it is that Rampardos has. So, I'd probably put him in like the low end of B. Aurorus is like same as Abomasnow. Definitely worse, but still, they do the same thing. Sylveon is very good. I still don't think Sylveon's better than Floette, but I think it's on par with Pokemon like Mega Meganium. Holucha, I'd actually say Holucha's pretty solid. I think Entrainment's very fun as a strategy, and he's the best Pokemon to do it with. Having no guard and everything. It's a shame he doesn't get Tailwind. That would possibly put him like higher up, but I'd say it's like low end of A. Low end of A, maybe high B, like a B plus again. In fact, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to put Holucha, Golurk, Hydreigon, Weavile. I'll put probably Politoed for Alligator. I'll chuck a Manectric in there. I think I'm fine with that. I mean, high end of this tier is like the Arcanines, probably Cofagrigus, Jolteon, and then like maybe these mons. I don't know if I can move them any higher up though. I think that B+ is fine as it is. But it's Pokemon that could be A, but like they're kind of in the middle. Goodra is kind of mid. Truthfully, both Goodras are kind of mid, really. Like, I've not seen any of them being used. I think Hisuian Goodra like is super bulky, but lacks compared to the Pokemon like Primarina, right? Or even Pokemon like Ampharos, who are good, very bulky. Doesn't get particularly a lot of sell. Just have Iron Defense Body Press sets, but that isn't super viable in doubles. In singles, it probably is. And I guess if you're building like a super offensive set, I'm going to put Hisuian Goodra in low B, but regular Goodra is kind of mid. Klefki could definitely work still. Prankster and his set with his annoying moves are very fun. Honestly, it's like high B, but it's still... He's still not like as good as the other Prankster mons like Sableye or Whimsicott. Having access to moves like Will-O-Wisp and Tailwind just do make them so much better. Trevenant is kind of mid. Got a bit of a weird stat distribution, personally, in my opinion. He's kind of just all over the place. He's a little bit bulky, not got super high offense. He's got weird speed stat. He has some good moves, like Will-O-Wisp, recovery with Horn Leech and Drain Punch, but that's about it. No Terry kind of makes him a little bit worse. Gorgeist is just not good. Just anything else. The Avalugs, personally to me, are both awful. Yeah, I'm putting them in D. They're very slow. Body Press is obviously a good form of damage, but like it's not stab, and plus Ice being a shit defensive typing, it is just they are just awful. Noivern can work. I think Noivern is on its on its own and not a bad mon. I definitely want to say it's mid. It's got way more utility with having naturally very high speed, access to Tailwind, incredibly powerful moves, and great coverage. Make it a lot more unpredictable than some of these Pokemon, and for that reason, I think he is like low to mid tier of B, I'd say. Usage-wise, mid. Unfortunately, mere ability, mere stats, nothing really to write home about. Hisuian Decidueye is about the same. The difference is a worse typing, but it does have a better move in triple arrows. Incineroar, obviously yes. Can't say anything about that. Primarina's A tier. Truthfully, like high end of A, I'd probably say that Primarina's on a similar range to Meganium. Typing's really good. Has really good bulk. Offense is like decent and it can hit spread damage. But it gets access to Calm Mind, which allows it to set off with opposing Pokemon. On the field, with like Sneasel to support you and stuff is nice. Truthfully, she's a little bit higher. I do think Milotic is a tiny bit better because Competitive is just a naturally more useful ability, and the extra bulk on the physical side is nice. Pokemon like Sneasler just do destroy Primarina. Buchanan's still mid, unfortunately, as much as I love him. Carbonable is like good, solid B+. I would say in the same boat as Golurk, and even probably a little bit higher because his natural ability is Hypercutter, meaning that he can't get intimidated, which is one problem that Golurk has. Lycanrocs are a bit weird. I mean, Lycanroc actually has had some play. It's an alternative option to using a Pokemon like Excadrill. So yeah, I'm gonna put the mid or the regular Lycanroc, so day form, in B because it has Sand Rush. It's an alternative option to Excadrill, and Stab. Rock Slide is pretty nice. The midday form I think is kind of mid, and I'm going to put the Dusk one as well, because whilst they both have good abilities, No Guard and Tough Claws, their use case is more in singles. Lycanroc Dusk is known for his strong attacking damages with like Stone Edge. In doubles, can still work, but he is a very like, again, he's one of those Pokemon with this weird speed stat. And then Lycanroc Dusk is very frail, doesn't get the Sand Rush boost, so you normally rely on Sash. Just to me, he's a bit mid. Toxapex, truthfully, he's not D because like he can still Toxic Stall, but he's like in a similar vein to Bastiodon. Just a bulky Pokemon that doesn't have anything offensively. Mudsdale is like a high end of C, I think. Similar to Bastiodon, but can do more damage. Stamina boosts can be annoying to play against. Doesn't have super reliable recovery, I don't think. I don't know if he actually has Milk Drink or not. If he does, could maybe be the factor of putting him up to B. Outside of that, though, he's like kind of C, kind of mid. Araquanid can work. Araquanid is nice, but again on the lower end of B. Entrainment Water Bubble is really good with Pokemon like Blastoise, or even Pokemon like Feraligatr, or even Pokemon like Primarina if you're not running Hyper Voice. Sticky Web is obviously really nice as well, and just Water Bubble in general is just a really good ability, even if you don't use Entrainment. Queenly Majesty over here with a Serena is B, can work, prevents priority. The thing for me about Serena though is just the being a pure grass type. Doesn't do a lot of damage really. Trop Kick is probably the best thing in its actual kit, that you can lower attack. But being immune to priority does put it up, but outside of that, it is still kind of meh. Salazzle's kind of C. I haven't seen enough Salazzles to put it higher. Obviously, Fast Encore is good in certain situations. Being able to Toxic anything is nice, but because Toxic Soul isn't exactly good in doubles, I still can't put it any higher than C. Rangaru's A. Rangaroo is very, very good in my opinion. I think this Pokemon, if left unchecked, right, especially in Trick Room, and even outside of Trick Room, right, there's annoying things like Ally Switch, and Instruct is also just really annoying to play against if, like I said, you don't deal with it. It allows Pokemon to use their moves twice. Under Trick Room, if Torkoal or something like Crabominable, right, gets to use their move twice, it's doing an immense amount of damage. And in a thing like VGC doubles, where you're only allowed 4 Mons, it's not something you want to play against. Persimmon, I still think Persimmion's B. I think Persimmon can work. I think it's lower end of B, but having Quick Guard, Defiant to work against like opposing Incineroars, also really going to King Gambit. Quick Guard prevents you from priority from Pokemon like Sneasler. It is actually surprisingly good. And he's naturally quite bulky. The problem is he doesn't do a lot of damage, I feel like. That's the only thing. Aside of that, I still think he can work. Mimikyu, I think, is like... I'd probably say between like B+ and A. I haven't seen a lot, but having essentially a free substitute and being immune to Fake Out, and being able to get Trick Room up, and being able to do a consistent amount of damage, and you have priority, there's a lot of benefits there in itself. I just think he immediately put it up to A tier. Dramper's a Pokemon to me that is a little bit weird. I think he's maybe like low B+. A Trick Room one that is really powerful in certain matchups. Being immune to Ghost type moves is nice. You can just spread Hyper Voice damage. With a Rangaroo, these two are like a really good pairing. I think his typing defensively helps him a lot. He has really good coverage and he has natural recovery with Roost. But more importantly, he has Berserk, which makes it a lot harder to, attempt to do damage. Because if you don't do enough, and he's still in Trick Room, he's going to kill a lot of things. And on top of that, his natural ability of Cloud9 is actually quite useful against certain Pokemon like Pelipper or Torkoal that you just spam Weather Ball sometimes. So I think B+ is fine. Kommo is B+, possibly even like close to A. The problem with Kommo is that like I haven't seen and used enough of him to truly say how good Clangorous Soul is, where you get all your buffs. It can work definitely with Fake Out, Follow Me, Mons and things like that. But again, it's down to Kommo's stat distribution. He is like naturally quite good all round. But the problem is if you go into like Fairy Spam, you can't hit spread damage without using scales, which is obviously a dragon move. So there's a caveat to a Pokemon like Mo. So I can't really put him any higher than that. I'm also going to move Starmie down, I think. I'm also going to move Tauros down. Corviknight is actually very good. I think he's a really annoying Tailwind Pokemon to play against. Maybe he's another Pokemon that's in like this B+ category, but like, yeah, maybe like high B+. But he's one of those Pokemons that like you either destroy, because like Rain teams with like Achulodon and Dragonite do really good. Rain team or Sun teams just destroy Corviknight, and even some Sand teams. But there is a lot of situations against like certain Pokemon like Sneasler and Gambit, and even having Mirror Armor to reflect Intimidates is really nice. But he doesn't do a lot of damage. He just kind of just exists, set up Tailwind and recover, and do a little bit of chip damage on certain Pokemon. Okay, now Flapple and Appleton are both mid. I haven't seen either one of them use it, I don't think, once. On paper, they're still not awful, but I mean, truthfully, Appleton might actually be D tier. At least Flapple has some speed to it. It has hustle. The thick fat on Appleton doesn't help it enough, I don't think. I mean, you're still weak to ice. You still do a lot of damage. I mean, he's kind of maybe in a similar position to like Avalugg. Sanaconda's mid. Earthquake spam potential with Glare, and it can also set up Sand with Sand Spit is quite nice. To kind of counter weather, but it doesn't change anything else. Like, you're still C tier. Poltergeist is a Pokemon that can work. It's one of those Pokemon, again, it's just a Shell Smasher that can, if set up, can do loads of damage with stored power. Obviously, there's a lot of risks with like Gambit and Priority Mons, so that's why it doesn't go any higher, and because there's just a lot of Dark types and Steel types. But he does get some of the good moves like Strength Sap and stuff, so. Hatterene to me is still mid, up until we get Psychic Terrain, Mons like Indeedee or Tapu Lele, whenever that comes out. It might go up, but for now it's still C. Grimmsnarl is B tier, it's a Pokemon that can work. Truthfully, I haven't seen a lot of Grimmsnarls. A lot of people haven't been using them very much. Pokemon like Sableye are just being used over because of the Ghost typing. But he's still good, just not good enough, I guess. Mr. Rhymes C, obviously there's the certain strategies that people have with Shake Hold and whatnot, and Screen Clean is actually a really good ability against Pokemon like Sableye. But those use cases don't put it enough, or don't give it enough, sorry, to be any higher than that. Runerigus is just a worse version of Cofagrigus, I would say. Partially down to the moves. I'm putting it in C. I just think there's way better options for Trick Room. Creamy C, Pokemon that can set up, is very slow, is bulky, but doesn't do a significant amount of damage. It's just one of those Pokemon that can be dealt with a lot easier. Morpeko is a Pokemon I think is B. I think he can work. I think he's just slightly worse than Pokemon like Lipard. He is a Pokemon that can have access to good support moves, Fake Out, as well as Parting Shot. Also has Helping Hand. Hunger Switch is a fun ability, and Aura Will is a good stab move, but it's not enough to put it any higher than B. Dragapult, I've seen a lot more Dragapults recently. I don't think he's like the best of the best, because just of the Pokemon that are like currently dominating the meta, he kind of doesn't have as much of a place as he would have normally. But he's on par with like Hydreigon, I think. He's still really quick. Psychic Fangs is really good against Pokemon like Sneasler. Being immune to Fake Out is obviously nice as well. He spammed Dragon Darts. There's Will-O-Wisp. There's a lot of like utility moves for Dragapult, which is kind of how he's being used at the moment, instead of being used offensively. But that's fine. I still think B+ is fine. Weirdeer is... I think Weirdeer is a weird one. Nice joke. He's a Pokemon that definitely can work, right, with Intimidate, Trick Room. And there's more strategies being used with Weirdeer and Meowstic. Still, I think he's C. I mean, his typing's quite good. I think he's B tier. I think he can work personally. Cleavor is B. He's kind of like high-ish B, right? Kind of similar to Hisui and Samurott. I mean, you could maybe make a case for them to be a bit higher up because Hazard's spam whilst doing damage is quite good. And it's the only kind of use case where you'd optionally choose to go for Hazards. Basculegions, I'm going to put the 1 in because they're both great. Basculegion is easily still S tier, one of the most annoying Pokemon to always account for. Like, I always try and have like a Meowscarada or a Kingambit just to counter it. Sneasler, obviously S tier. I think people will just know now. Meowscarada's A. I think Meowscarada is like low-key really, really underrated. As a Choice Scarf user, it is one of the best. Having Protean allowed you to get consistent stab against anyone. Triple Axle's really good in lead into like Garchomp, Dragonite, U-turn's good for pivoting, and then Flower Trick and Knockoff just do so much damage. Skeledirge is mid, unfortunately. He's just too bulky, doesn't do enough damage without having set up. He doesn't have much support, so... Polmot is definitely a Pokemon that can work. Haven't seen many Polmots, but having Fake Out, being a really quick and high attacking electric type into like Pelipper teams, and even certain Pokemon like T-Tar, you can do quite well into. So I think there is a lot more use cases for Polmot than people have realized, which I'm not complaining about because I hate that mon. Quaquaval is kind of mid. Obviously, Aquastep Moxie's good, but again, he's just like a much worse Feraligatr. Like, he doesn't have enough natural attack and speed and whatever to actually benefit in like pressure from the jump. Like, even like Pokemon like Empoleon and Emboar and Infernape are much more threatening as Pokemon to go against, just from the jump. Yes, obviously Quaquaval with buffs could work, so maybe that puts him towards like the low end of B, but like that's literally it. Mousehold's actually like really, really good, I think, at the moment. I don't know about A, but like it's high B, like probably being one of the better redirecting Pokemon at the moment. Obviously Encore, Tidy Up, good moves to have as well for being annoying and setting up. And plus Population Bomb is just one of the better moves in the game, so maybe you could make a case for him to be higher. But I'll put him in B+ for now. My boy... Oh yeah, my boy Garganical, still in C. Mid-tier, kind of just like Basculegion like I said before. Solkyo got nerfed, so... Armarouge, B-tier, I think he can work. I think Wide Guard is good. I think he can pressure with some good offensive damage. Does kind of lack speed. I think that's the one thing that makes him a bit worse than Ceruledge, for example. I mean, I both think they're kind of B-tier-ish, but I don't think they have potential. So, might be Pokemon to keep an eye on. Bellibolt. I know Bellibolt, there was like a time period where Bellibolt was considered like the anti-meta pick for certain teams, for Pokemon like rain teams and stuff, because of annoying Pokemon like Basculegion who don't kill, and then they get so much damage done to them with Electromorphoses. Sure, but it doesn't go any higher than that. Scovillain ST. This is one of the most annoying Pokemon to play against. If not the most annoying Pokemon to play against, I don't care. Espathra is actually really good. I've come against a couple of Espathras, and if left unchecked, right, if it has the ability to baton pass and you allow it to do it, when it gets up a Calm Mind boost or a speed boost, you just potentially lose. It is really, really threatening offensively with the speed and the setup, and also just from a support point of view. As like Ally Switch as well to be annoying. I do not like playing against this thing. Tinkaton. Actually, kind of underrated. A pretty good fake out option for Pokemon like Farigiraf, because of Armor Tail, and if you didn't know, Tinkaton has Mold Breaker, meaning that it can ignore that and then Fake Out. That being said, I felt, because I've used Tinkaton a decent bit, I do feel like there's less matchups where Tinkaton is still a good lead, because Incineroar, whilst, you know, if it's like Trick Room teams, for example, and it's Incineroar plus Farigiraf, which a lot of the time it normally is, you're still at risk of taking a lot of damage from Incineroar. Steel Fairy is a good type combination, a very, very good type combination. But I do feel like there is more and more situations where like Tinkaton just does get outmatched. I think if you pair it with the right Pokemon, it can work, which is why it's in B+. Palafin, I think Palafin's B+. I think Palafin's just a worse version of Basculegion. A lot of sets are still the same with Scarf. The only difference is like Basculegion has adaptability, right? It just does so much more damage naturally. There probably is ways of making this work without having to go Scarf with like Pelipper Tailwind. You can do extra damage in the rain, you have recover with Drain Punch, CC, I think, and then Ice Punch and stuff. So there is options. I just haven't seen as many Palafins recently. Earthworm to me is still a bit mid. I mean, Earthy is really good in Earthquake spam, so that's nice. And Chattel's great, obviously, he just doesn't do a lot of damage. And he's very weak, especially from a bulk point of view. Glimora is still... I think Glimora is kind of one of those Pokemon, like B+, maybe A. I've felt that like over the sort of the meta, right, there's been less and less Pokemon used like Glimora, but it's still incredibly powerful. Under, Tailwind, right, with Pokemon like Whimsicott, or even going certain Pokemon like potentially Pelipper, or something along those lines, right? You get that extra speed boost, and Pelipper helps to account for the weaknesses of Glimora. That means I think it is on the lower end of A. I just don't know if I can put it in B+. Farigiraf, I think, is A. I think Farigiraf is still one of the best, if not the best, Trick Room setters in the game. Really consistent, just preventing priority is so nice, right? And the typing's good. Offensively, he lacks a little bit. There's no Throat Spray in the game yet, so there's that to look out for when it does get added. So I'm happy with the placement of A. Kingambit, S tier. I genuinely think he is. He's really, really, really good. One of the best options for priority, and just having the ability of Defiant is just nice just to have to scare away Pokemon like Incineroar. I can't say enough about him. I do love to bring him just so I can counter Basculegion. Then we have Sinistcha, who I voted the most viable Pokemon at the beginning of the regulation. I think he has fallen down for me. I think he's just one of those Pokemon that he is still really annoying to play against, right? But there's more and more Pokemon that people are using spread moves on. I think there's a lot more people have realized that is really powerful. And plus, being a grass type, right? Because more Pokemon like Meowscarada, Scovillain, and Meganium are becoming more and more popular, being able to avoid redirection has definitely been a factor that's impacted on Sinistcha. So I think S tier is still fine. I think he's one of the best support mons still, with hospitality and things of that nature. I do think he has gotten quote-unquote worse. Archulodon is... I fucking hate this Pokemon. Stamina Archulodon is so annoying to play against all the time, because I feel like more teams that I build end up being like heavily physical orientated, which is just a lack of my team building skills. But if you don't have a good effective way to beat this thing, and it just sets up, you're lost. You've lost. There's no if and buts or maybes. It's a guarantee. And finally, Hydrapple. I think Hydrapple is pretty solid. Regenerate is obviously good. Does okay damage. He's not a bad option for Trick Room, just the problem is Regenerate is not that good in doubles. And with Frostlass still running about, he does kind of get neutered a little bit. So I think I'm happy with C. If it was a C+, I'm not doing a C+ today, but if it was a C+, I'd probably put him in that. And then, obviously, we've got to do the worst. I think I'm going to go Castform. I think he is definitively the worst Pokemon. He doesn't have Z-moves, so he can't nuke any things with, like, a normal Z-moves. He has to set up terrain himself. Even if he does have it set up himself, he's not bulky, he's not quick, and he doesn't do enough damage. Yes, you have Weather Ball, but then people can easily counter Weather. So, for that reason, I think he's probably the worst, which is a shame because I love Castform. I'm pretty happy with that. There is a couple that I'd probably move, and if you would move any, then please let me know, because I'd like to get your opinion on certain Pokemon, especially some of these Pokemon in B+. More importantly, S tier. With that being said, now I've got to decide who I would put in the top 5.
5 minutes later.
Okay, I think I've got an idea in my head of where I want to rank this. This felt so much harder than it did the first time around. There has been a significant drop in certain Pokemon, in my opinion, within the entirety of that first season of regulation. In 5th, I'm going to go Aerodactyl. Honorable mention for Pokemon like Gengar, Floette, and even Pokemon like Garchomp. I think Garchomp has shot up in terms of being like one of the best Pokemons in the tier. It's really good against literally every form of terrain, whether that's rain, sand, snow, or sun. He has some sort of use case. Scarf Garchomp's really good. Scale Shot with Lumberry or White Herb is really good. There isn't like enough to say about Garchomp. I think he's better than Dragonite. I think Dragonite has fallen off a bit. I think more people are using him as a support because of his new kind of distributed stats. I still think Dragonite could be great. I think as the season progresses and we get more mons that can potentially benefit Dragonite, I think he might put himself up there. And Scovillain's really annoying to play against. But Aerodactyl just to me has been so consistently good in every team he's in. Being a flying type is good because it means that Earthquake spammers like Garchomp can run rampant and not have to worry about hitting the own team. He's one of the best Pokemon to get up Tailwind, with him being one of the quickest. He also has surprisingly good attack, right? Even without going Mega. But if you do go Mega, that increased attack is so nice. And having that with a Pokemon like Garchomp or Pokemon like Tyranitar or even a Pokemon like Sneasler, spamming Rock Slide is super powerful. Getting flinches can make or break a game. Even if you do it once, you get enough chip and then you can attack with something else next turn. Counters Pokemon like Sneasler with Double Wing Beat, who pretty much guarantees kills unless it's a bulky Sneasler, if they get their Fake Out turn wrong. But like I said, the most important thing, he is just the best setter of Tailwind. I still think he's better than Talonflame. I can't say, like, more and more times I play against it, the more I realise I hate playing against it. Then in 4th, I think I'm going to go Incineroar. Now, again, might be a little bit of a weird controversial placement because some people do view him as the best. I mean, not having knockoff, I don't think has made that much of a difference. I still think he's really, really nice to play against. Having knockoff would make him better, definitely. But the thing is because of the limited Pokemon like Kingambit, Milotic, right, and Pokemon that have Defiant are super strong. And it just forces Incineroar not to come sometimes. And because of that, it does make him worse. That being said, he's still great. He still has super good moves, really good bulk, really good attack. Works in Trick Room, and he's a great Trick Room lead. Third, I'm going to go Sneasler. I think Sneasler is one of the most consistent ones. I think, again, kind of like Incineroar. You can bring Sneasler to any team, and it will work. Really quick Fake Out is nice. The only Pokemon that is quicker with Fake Out, I believe, is... where is he? Weavile. Which does make Weavile still a bit more viable, but in general. But I do still think Sneasler is one of the most viable Pokemon in the game. Diaclaw, if you can get your procs, is amazing. I can never get them. And then Close Combat, White Herb and Unburden allows you to outspeed pretty much everything, even certain Pokemon under Tailwind, which makes me put him higher than Aerodactyl. There's really good damage. Typing is okay. Poison Fighting is a bit of a meh typing, really. It helps in certain situations, like it's really nice to have against Meganium, as well as Floette. But the typing isn't the issue, like everything else is perfect. Second, this was probably the most difficult one, but I think I'm going to go Basculegion. I think Basculegion, for me, has been one of the most offensively annoying Pokemon to play against. Like, I know if there's a Basculegion, I've got to get my turns right. I've got to get my protects right. I've got to make sure that I get my priority turns correct to ensure that I can actually hit it and kill, because if you don't kill it early enough, it comes back in later and sweeps with last respects. If you get the prediction wrong and it tries to just go for raw damage straight away and goes for a wave crash, something's getting nuked. His adaptability is super powerful. With Choice Scarf means it can outspeed most things. So, for that reason, he's got to be second. But first, if you probably hadn't guessed it already, is Archulodon. I think Archulodon is the most easy Pokemon to use offensively to pretty much destroy like everything. If you look, other than the fact that he doesn't have body press anymore, he hits everything here for an unholy amount of damage. Dragonite gets destroyed. A +1 Draco or a Dragon Pulse does a lot of damage to Scovillain. Doesn't have body press anymore, but it does have Focus Blast, I believe, or Aura Sphere. I mean, regardless, it's Kingambit is still a Pokemon that doesn't necessarily want to be in against Archulodon. Blastoise, Frostlass, Tyranitar, Charizard, whatever, they're getting destroyed. And like I said, I think it is the Pokemon that you have to kind of account for the most when playing it as a lead. Because if you fake it out and it's not sturdy, there's a risk that you just set it up to be too bulky and then you can't kill it in the end. If you don't target enough and it gets sets up with Electro Shot in Rain, then it becomes too powerful. Steel Dragon is an incredible typing. Stamina is a great ability. But even if you don't go Stamina, you can just go Choice Scarf Sturdy. You live one hit guaranteed, and it also scares people off using Fake Out because they don't want to give you the defense boost. There's just so much that this Pokemon has, and they made a good decision getting rid of body press, honestly, because it would then mean that Pokemon like Tyranitar, Kingambit, even some other Pokemon like Scizor, right, do not want to swap in onto this Pokemon, and for that reason, he is, in my opinion, the most broken and the most viable Pokemon as of Regulation B. With that being said, that took so long to finish the record. I'm happy with that, truthfully. If you do have an opinion of where you would change it, or if you would have a different top 5, then please do let me know. I'd be interested to see your guys' opinion. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow my Instagram account, Slowbro. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.